President Trump officially declared today as America's Liberation Day and, in a bold move, kicked off a new tariff war. He announced a 26% tariff on us, which will affect our economy. For example, this pen I am holding, which costs 1,001 domestically, would sell for 1,261 in the US, reducing its competitiveness. Let me provide a detailed update on the announcement. We now connect to Washington. Correspondent Kang Young-goo, can you please share the details of the US announcement? As President Trump predicted, he announced mutual tariffs targeting the entire world. A 26% tariff has been imposed on South Korea. This is a higher rate than expected. However, there was some confusion in the reported figures. Initially, the panel prepared by President Trump had listed Korea at 25%. Later, the appendix to the executive order released by the White House specified it as 26%. The White House clarified that the executive order should be followed, affirming the 26% rate stated in the appendix. It was also disclosed that the tariff rates for nations such as India and Switzerland were adjusted 1 percentage point higher than the figures presented during the panel held by President Trump. President Trump explained that these mutual tariff rates take into account the tariffs and non-tariff barriers of each country. He pointed out certain examples like South Korea's automobiles and rice, declaring that South Korea's trade barriers are the worst and severely block US exports. Korea was set at 26%. Then what were the announced tariff rates for other countries? Generally speaking, there is a foundational tariff of 10% that applies to every country, while notably some 67 nations are subject to even steeper tariffs. For key countries, the tariff rates were 34% for China, 24% for Japan, and 32% for Taiwan respectively. Plus, they slapped on at least a 10% tariff across the board, including a 20% tariff from the EU. The base 10% tariff will take effect from the 5th, with reciprocal tariffs by country starting on the 9th. The administration under President Trump has issued a very strong and clear warning, urging various countries around the world not to retaliate against the mutual tariffs imposed, but instead to accept them with a sense of composure and understanding. However, there is growing criticism that the US is gradually abandoning its long-held free trade stance and reverting to protectionism, a move that could potentially lead to a global economic downturn. That was the report from Washington.